It is Tuesday, the 26th of May, and today I'll be doing a couple of stories in the news. And the first story today, the headline reads, SA cities and towns must find sites for mass graves under new COVID-19 burial rules. And this is from the Business Insider, South Africa. Now, the moment you start thinking about mass graves, you think of genocide and many other horrible things that's happened throughout the world history. But to actually start burying your friends and family and people that you actually know that you would visit a normal funeral, a normal burial, and say goodbye to them, and then to think that they need to be buried in mass burial sites. I can only imagine that this must be for people that have no one claiming them after they actually pass on. But let's have a look at what is being said. South Africa's municipalities should find sites where mass graves can be located for COVID-19 victims, Health Minister Zweli Mkhize has directed. Now, I know this direction was already given to the city of Cape Town, and they have already looked at sites for mass burial graves. Cremation is highly recommended, but if the death rate overwhelms storage capacity, the state may conduct mass burials. It will be up to municipalities to ensure that remains can later be identified. So they're saying the municipalities, many of them that can't do their job properly, must make a means or ways available to later identify these bodies to be able to rebury the remains. Burial services for COVID-19 victims are now limited to 2 hours, with strict rules for family members who wish to handle bodies. So, South African towns and cities should find suitable spots for mass graves. Zweli Mkhize directed on Monday in new regulations detailing how the mortal remains of COVID-19 victims should be handled. Now, I think we should closely look at these new regulations, and I'll probably do another article just on that. Should the death rate appear to exceed the capacity of available space to keep mortal remains, the government may intervene to facilitate mass burials, he said. Municipalities should ensure that a mass burial is done in consideration of human dignity, and necessary controls should be put in place to ensure that mortal remains can be identified. Now, I don't think there's anything dignified about a mass grave. If you think about the Second World War and you think of how the Jewish people were buried in mass graves, shot right next to the grave and just dumped, there's no imagery that I can think of at a mass grave site that comes anything near being dignified. And I'm sure most people will agree with me on that. In April, Mkhize gave municipalities and provinces a tight deadline to report how many bodies they could store. So this is already in his mind. Let me just reiterate that this is coming from the World Health Organization. These ideas, concept to put fear into people's minds, it is a part of their agenda and plan. And for you to actually see more on this, go and watch my other videos, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell icon so that you can actually receive notifications when new articles are published and when new specific videos are published. You can actually go and look at my playlists and see the various videos under the playlist so that you can look at topics that you are interested in. Under the rules published on Monday, which are immediately in force, mortuaries may not keep bodies for more than 3 days. So they've already imposed heavy time restrictions on bodies remaining in mortuaries, and government may intervene if remains are not claimed within 2 days. So if you don't claim your family's remains in 2 days, it could be family in another province, and we're still not allowed to travel from province to province. How do you claim the remains within 2 days if you can't even travel there? So there's many questions that needs to be answered, or your grandmother or grandfather or uncle or aunt might be buried in a mass grave. The government might just go and claim the bodies and put them in a mass burial site. This is extremely concerning. Non-COVID-19 mortal remains must be buried or cremated within 10 days. Okay, this is non-COVID-19. So if it's someone that tested positive for COVID-19, it doesn't mean that they actually died from the disease, because you actually cannot, as they say, get tested positive for COVID-19. You get tested positive for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is responsible for the COVID-19 disease, as I've explained many times before. The new regulations also lay out in considerable detail how bodies should be handled and burials must be conducted. Now, normally when you handle bodies, all these things are generally considered. Bodies are generally considered contaminated, and normally those bodies are handled carefully with gloves, etc. at any mortuary. So any body that goes to a mortuary is considered contaminated by the staff that handle them. So I'm not sure what the extra measures are that they are talking about here. I think this sounds a lot like extra fear-mongering to me at this stage. Burial services should be as short as possible and are now limited to 2 hours. Cremation is highly recommended and embalming is not recommended, nor is any handling of the body by family members. Family may dress a body at a funeral parlor, Mkhize said, but only if they wear personal protective equipment. So you need to wear personal protective equipment if you want to dress the body at a funeral parlor. And I mean, there's many people that actually do this before they bury someone. Only close family members should attend a funeral for someone who dies of any infectious disease under the regulations. Any infectious disease. Are they actually considering something else happening soon? Family members must also wear gloves and masks for any viewing of a body. So this is quite interesting. You have to wear masks and gloves to view a body that's just lying in state. I think these people have absolutely lost their minds. I don't think there's any scientific basis for this. And I'm sure if we actually see, like I've reported in the previous articles, that MAC had absolutely nothing to do with these decisions. MAC is basically there's 51 scientists, professors, doctors that is supposed to advise the government on the regulations that they put in place. And they say that they have had absolutely nothing to do with any of the regulations that have been put in place. They don't agree with many of these regulations. And now people have been gagged from speaking out and saying anything on the matter. I can tell you for sure that this is not constitutional, that this will not stand in the constitutional court, because they have to actually give scientific evidence for the judges to consider that these regulations actually fall within line with human dignity and all our rights within the Bill of Rights that we find at the beginning of the Constitution. Remember, the rest of the Constitution is written to actually apply to the Bill of Rights. Thank you for listening to this article. Please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell button if you want notifications. Go and look at my other playlist, watch the videos. I discuss a lot with regards to your rights as a South African, your rights as a smoker, as a drinker, your rights for your kids in school, and any other topic related to the Constitution, how our government is subverting our actions as citizens of this country, and how they are violating the Constitution at this stage. And I'm sure that mass burial sites will be no exception.